Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Mountaineer Locker Room Then and Now. I'm Greg Christ, along with Mr. Frank Fear, joining you again tonight here on another Wednesday night. Frank, another great guest for the show tonight. Looking forward to this one.
That's right. Before we get started, though, you want me to sing the words to our theme song? I can do that.
Yes, I love that.
You're just supposed to laugh.
Yeah.
We just don't work well together. We got to get this synced.
That's right. We had Tommy Bowden on here singing one night. I figured, why not get you?
Yeah.
And I've had a couple that agreed. Rob Summers one time agreed to. He sang a song for me. What his walk-up song would be, he sang it for me. And of course, Tommy Bowden sang the fight song or some song. I don't remember what it was, but sometimes we have some singing on here. We are really diversified on this show.
That's right.
Everything, song and dance to Mountaineer sports, but mainly Mountaineer sports. We hope you, of course, been keeping up with the baseball team and know what's going on with them now, and a little bit of an abrupt and disappointing end to the tournament that kind of went downhill quickly, and a little concerned about them. Just another late season swoon we seem to be having.
Boy, I'll tell you, but we're always hopeful, right? And we thought we were going to get that home regional. It didn't happen, and the tournament didn't work out the way we wanted. Although we beat Cincinnati, but Arizona really gave it to us. But we made it into the tournament. We're going to Clemson, and you and I were talking about this earlier. If you look at that regional, West Virginia, I think, is in pretty good shape, even opening up against a team it hasn't had much luck with, namely Kentucky. If you look at that team, just about a 500 team, and even Clemson that finished second in the tournament, fifth in the regular season. If you look at their stats, Clemson and Kentucky, as long as West Virginia plays like we know it can play, I think we've got a real chance to advance.
Yeah, that was going to be my next thought was if we can just get back that magic we had at the beginning of the season and get to playing like we know we're capable of playing, because really, it's not like we started off the season and played the first 15, 20 games well and then floundered around after that. We played extremely well from beginning up until the last 2 weeks of the season. And then the last 2 weeks of the season, and then the tournament, a little bit of a letdown. But prior to that, that team was lights out, and you just hope that we can kind of get that flame restarted and get a little bit of that momentum going back again. But I think you just have to wonder if, and I know there's been some difficulties with some of the closers and that sort of thing, but you have to wonder if a lot of this may not come down to the psychological aspect of it, where they've just gotten in this funk and they just can't seem to get out of it. And it's kind of worrisome again, just because of the way we ended the season and then the tournament. Like I said, beat Cincinnati, but then the next game wasn't even a contest; it was over early, and we never even challenged in that game. So hopefully, this will get a little break and get some rest, and hopefully they can come out and, like I said, get that magic back that they had the first 3/4 of the season.
Yeah, and it's a double elimination tournament, not a single elimination. So that means you can lose the first game and you're still got skin in the game. And I think, as I said, if you look at this, if you do any profiling and look at Kentucky, I'm looking at their record now, 29-24, 13-17 in the Southeastern Conference, and then I looked at the stats for Clemson, and I was shocked that they have very few hitters and pitchers in the top 20 in the ACC, and you just got to feel that if we can just play our game, and it's how the season ends, and so let's try to put that behind us and come out and let's all keep our fingers crossed. You can watch it on ESPN on Friday at noon.
Yep. And you hope that, you look around at at the regionals and the teams in those regions. And of course, I don't follow all of them, but like you, I'm able to look at statistics and records and that sort of thing. As far as regions go, it seems like it's not a bad region for West Virginia to be in. I mean, of all the ones they could have landed in, that might have been the best one. So, and that's not to take anything away from any of the other teams in there. It's just, looking at records and stats and batting averages and those sorts of things, we stack up very nicely. And so hopefully, like you said, we can get that magic back and get it going in the NCAA tournament. Looking forward to that. Like, we'll watch it Friday. Is it Friday at noon, I think you said?
Yes.
Friday at noon. Yep. So it'll be give us something to look forward to.
And in the meantime, the headlines are filled with NCAA Sankey. And I didn't say stanky, did I? I said Sankey. These threats of the SEC, and by the way, they have not been validated, mostly rumors, but the SEC leaving the NCAA. But as we talked about last week, what's real, whether or not they leave or not, hey, the SEC and the Big Ten want to control major college sports, period. And they just don't want to hear any proposal or certainly any decision that would in any way affect their ability to be able to get their own way and do things the way they want it done.
Yeah, the article you sent, interesting read, and a little bit, after the positive things we've heard, a little bit discouraging after reading that, knowing that, like you said, and you've been saying this all along, they want to control it. They want to, the hardest thing, the most difficult thing we're going to have to do is convince the SEC and the Big Ten that this is good for them. Whatever the solution is, we're going to have to convince them that, they're going to benefit from it. The problem is, they look at it as they believe they should benefit more. I guess they maybe feel like they contribute more, so they should benefit more. And I don't know that that narrative is going to change. I don't know if we're going to be able to convince them that, what's good for all of us is good for all of us, and all inclusive. But hopefully they see it that way. But yeah, pretty evident that they have their mindset a certain way, and that certain way is if it benefits us more than everybody else, then that's the way it's got to be that way,
Yeah.
And so a little discouraging after after talking last week with Tony and hearing his thoughts on it, made us feel a little bit better about the prospects of the future. Now I don't know, we're back in limbo again, and man, who knows what's going to happen? What a mess.
Mm-hmm. Well, next week we'll return to the topic because our guest LaShawn Pryor is from Oklahoma City, has a podcast there, and he is very close to what's going on with the Oklahoma Sooners and Texas Longhorns. And he is very concerned, basically because he believes, and this is what a lot of people believe, you and I too, that the current model is unsustainable. It's inherently unsustainable. And that's one of the reasons why I think Sankey, who's being the SEC commissioner, is being a bully here. Just trying to silence people to try to get their own way so they get the advantage, which means as big a piece of the pie as possible. But LaShawn will have more to say about that next week.
Yeah, and I'm sure, they're throwing the salvos out there now, letting it be known, and I think in their own special way saying, we're running this ship. We're in charge of this, and we're the captain of the boat. And no matter what you guys think or come up with, we're going to have to decide, and we're going to make the decision about what's going to move, how we're going to do this moving forward. And I think they're throwing out those early shots just to see how people react and respond to them. This may be that case, but I think we've seen them in the past, and I think they're looking out solely for themselves and not the fan, not the whole of the college football, but just for the SEC mainly and the Big Ten. So Yeah, I don't. I hope it's just trying to establish a position maybe at this point, because I don't really think anybody knows. With these settlements, the interesting thing, one of the things that Tony mentioned last week, this settlement agreement, which has not been agreed upon yet. If they do agree to that, then they got to change the way they do business. And so far, they've shown no indication that they're planning on doing that. So he felt like even if we did have an agreement and a settlement, there were going to be more lawsuits, more litigation, and they're going to go through it again because they're still doing the same things they were doing before that brought this litigation into play to begin with. So I don't think anybody really knows, can say for sure what's going to happen. So I think a lot of this is just posturing, trying to get in a position of power and authority, which they have, because they have those teams. And but I think, and I still feel in my heart, and I hope as a fan that somewhere down the road these cooler heads will prevail. The dollar won't be, because sure they may make more money initially, but just picture a college football landscape with the Big Ten and the SEC solely by themselves, and then the rest of us by ourselves. What that would do to both sides, it's going to create this rift and a schism between the two, and it's not going to benefit either side very much. But if you get everyone together on the same page, and like we've talked about, regionalize the thing and model it after the NFL, the revenue that's going to be there is going to be unbelievable. And hopefully they'll look at that in the end rather than causing a civil war and making it hard on everybody, in the end. That's my hope.
Yeah.
Hold out hope.
No, I agree with you completely. And one of the things now that seems to be backfiring is that Charlie Baker, who was the governor of Massachusetts, they wanted him as their new president executive director because they were putting all their eggs in a regulation basket that the U.S. Congress would acquiesce to the NCAA's desires because they couldn't get the conferences to work together. And so it would be regulated. Right. And that's where Joe Manchin and Tommy Tuberville and others, Chris Murphy, were willing. But the problem is, as we've talked about, is that there are bigger fish to fry in Washington than college sports, major college sports. Right. So now they have a politician in charge who really has very little background in higher education or college athletics. And so it's sort of like I don't want to be critical, but it's like a rudderless ship. And so we'll just see how it goes. What would be great if we could go back to 1988 again. Right?
Oh man, wouldn't that be
something? What we need tonight is a guy who could talk about what 1988 was like. Don't you think?
Yeah, I think we have one of those. And Frank, I want to tell you what, I have a lot of fond memories of those that year in particular, but several of those years, I went to all of those games and watching this guy play. I'm telling you right now, I don't know if he gets the credit he deserves, but I just remember he was the beast. He was the anchor of that line, and they were so good. And I said, back then, they did it different than they do it now. Those guys were all in school for 4 or 5 years. I think if I remember correctly, the whole offensive line were like fifth-year seniors going into that national championship game. And, man, were they good. And it was so much fun to watch, and he was awesome. Awesome. So let's bring him in here. We got him in the back room hanging out. There he is, Mr. Kevin Koken. Kevin, welcome to the show. Appreciate you taking the time to join us.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to join the show, talk a little bit about maybe 1988 and a few other things. But yeah, thank you, and glad to be here.
I think one of the anytime we have a person that played in '88 or in that time period, played in the national championship game, including Major, we've asked him the same question. We have to ask. Everybody wants to know, if Major hadn't got hurt, would we have won that game?
Yes.
That's so far that's been the answer.
I'll tell you, and I've said this for a long time, and losing Major was absolutely critical, a critical injury. But I'll tell you, there were a couple other key injuries that played probably just as an important role. John Stroya going down, Darrell Whitmore going down in the Syracuse game, and then we rotated the defensive backfield around. John went down with a concussion. Scott Summits from the defense went down with a concussion, and all those things happened in the first quarter, which became a trend, not a trend of the game, but helped set the trend of the game. I think they were very impactful, and not that the next guy up didn't do a great job, but when a person is a starter, they're a starter for a reason. And,
right.
We lost a couple of key starters there, and, Major kept playing. The other guys couldn't keep playing. Major right. kept playing, albeit maybe, with only one arm and two legs, but that's still a pretty dangerous person when you're Major.
Yeah, I was going to say with just two legs, one arm, that's still quite a threat with him back here. What's your? That must be like now. I'm sure it seems like it was a dream, but looking back on that time, I know for the fans, man, what a wild time it was. It was just things were just electric. Going out to the championship game, just reflect a little bit on that, your memories and what that was like.
Sure. Well, it was a little bit surreal in that, when you're in the moment, and certainly what you see today with social media and everything is in your face. We didn't have it then. It was a day or two before the newspaper article was written, and it was a weekly magazine before you could really get kind of thrown off your rails. So it seemed very surreal in that the preparation, the planning, it was a big game. It was a ball game. It was a big game. It was the biggest game, certainly by far. But you became so accustomed to it. And, when you think of some of my teammates that, we started for, 2, 3, 4 years. So it was the next game. It was time to come to work. It was time to put your helmet on and start playing. The fans, also my family was probably more excited than most people. But for the fans, I think there was a lot more relishing in the excitement and what was happening versus the players staying focused on the game at hand, the game plan. Coach Nealon kept us tied up pretty good, and rightfully so.
Yeah, I remember Frank, last game of the season when we beat Syracuse to finish off the undefeated season. The fans just stayed there. Nobody left, and we just stayed, and they just continued to cheer and talking. We wanted Notre Dame, and the players actually came back on the field after they had gone in. They came back out on the field, and it was just just magical. It was one of the most memorable times I ever had going to Mountaineer Field, and I know you guys. I'm sure that was a thrill for you guys as well.
It was. As a matter of fact, as you're talking about, I'm getting a little bit of tingles. It was incredibly exciting. The week before the Syracuse game, I actually kind of tweaked my knee and my ankle. Somebody rolled up on me, and it was a challenge that I was even going to play in that game. But come Thursday, I'm like, Coach, I'm on the field. There's no way this isn't happening. But there was probably 5 rolls of tape on my knee and on my ankle to make sure it was going to be stable for the game. And obviously we won. It was a great game. The team played incredible. The defense just came to make sure that they were going to put a lid on Syracuse that year. And the excitement. And I had actually just made it to the locker room because I was still kind of gimping and limping after the game. The adrenaline was down just a smidge. And everybody turned around and said, we're going back out on the field to do a lap. As awesome as it was, my first reaction was, you got to be kidding me. We're going to go back out there, and I had to turn back around. And it was electric. And, that's one of the things that make
All right, I think he froze up on us a little bit there.
Yeah, he did.
Froze up, or we lost him.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, you're
He's
back
back.
now. Yep.
That's what makes WVU sports so incredible is the absolute, incredible fan base. And that's actually one of the reasons that helped me convince me to go to WVU after going to a game down there and then also going to, on an official visit. But that's what's always been so very, very special. Obviously, they're extremely rabid. They can also be pretty tough on you. But
Oh, yeah.
when you don't show up as a player, you've got to do something different. And, the fans deserve that too.
I want to get here in just a minute. Frank, I don't want to take all the time to give you a chance to hop in there, but I want to talk a little bit about your offensive line and the way it developed and that sort of thing. Want to get to that here in a minute, but Frank, I'll let you go ahead and jump in and get a question in, and then
Sure.
we'll move on to the shape of the football today.
Yeah. The thing that I think about, I wasn't on campus at that time. I was at Michigan State on the faculty, so I was watching it from afar. And the thing I remember about that season going in, after you guys came off I think it was 4-7 in '86, and then 6-6 in '87, and and then all of a sudden you got rolling. I never thought. I remember Arch Moore saying when he introduced the West Virginia delegation at the Republican convention, and he took the mic and he introduced the delegation as, I'm from the state of West Virginia, and West Virginia University is going to be in the national championship game. And I said to myself, okay, really? After those seasons, what was the feeling? Was there any feeling that could even be possible after those 2 years?
Actually, yes. There was a lot of very, very special feelings across the team. And we didn't always talk about it a lot. It was just kind of, we knew what we needed to do, and we knew that we thought we were going to be pretty good. A lot of experience in really every single position, and the electricity that Major brought. Give the ball to Craig Taylor, who never loses a yard ever in the history of his career. A.B. Brown, Eugene Napoleon. Give the ball to Reggie on the corner, and Calvin and Grannis. We thought we were going to be special. And actually, in the spring, late spring, my roommate was Chris Parker from the defensive line. And Chris and I kind of made a commitment that we weren't going to cut our hair until we played for the national championship. And it was a secret. Nobody knew anything about it. We didn't talk about it. And my dad had a crew cut until he passed. And every game I'd get the little flip in my hair and the little, what are you doing here? You got to get your hair cut. And I couldn't talk about it. That was our pact. We didn't talk about it. We did nothing. And our hair got pretty long. But it was kind of our belief that we thought we were really good. And that was kind of just a little thing between teammates that you do every once in a while that makes something a little bit extra special for yourselves as players. So
Frank,
we thought we had a lot to go.
I can attest to the feeling that everyone felt like, not just players, but fans too. I can remember I'd gone to, I think it was Ohio State. Major was a freshman. You guys went to Ohio State, and I think we fumbled like 6 times in that game, and we got beat. And I remember going back to school on Monday, and my principal, he always gave me a hard time about going to all these ball games, watching the Mountaineers, and we watched another loss, and all this kind of stuff. After that game, I told him, I said, I'm telling you right now, we are going to be really good next year. You think? I said, oh, yeah. I said, we got a quarterback that can ball. And I said, we got a lot of people coming back that can play. I said, you watch, we're going to have an off. And I never dreamed it was going to be undefeated. We were going to play the national championship, but I knew that they were going to be good. I think everybody that paid attention had that feeling, even the players. Who recruited you? I know you mentioned coming to get recruited to West Virginia. Who recruited you? And how all that work out coming down there?
Well, Mike Jacobs, the offensive line coach, was actually my specific recruiter. He had Northeastern Ohio. So that blended really well into that. I was getting to know a coach during the recruiting process that was actually going to be my position coach. And Coach Jacobs was an incredible guy. He was so very, very intense. His football knowledge and how to technically do things, but then also how to do it with some intensity and absolute focus was something that kind of hit home with me. And really in the beginning of the recruiting process, before I met Coach Jacobs or really any coaches, the rules were a little bit different there. But I was getting a lot of letters and being recruited, and I had the pile of the teams that I was like, wow, that would be really cool, to the teams that were like, okay, I can maybe go here, and then the teams that I wasn't interested in. And the ironic thing is that West Virginia was over in the pile that I wasn't necessarily interested in, and mostly because I didn't know anything about it. Again, there was only 3 networks back then, right? So in the exposure that you got, and while there were a couple of great wins and big things that happened in the previous 4 years after Coach Nealon arriving, it just wasn't the national kind of glitz and glamour that you heard of. I actually went to a game mid-season with a scout from my hometown in Youngstown, Ohio, and I was like, wow, this is not what I thought it was. And the fans was something that you saw in a game that was just so electric, and the passion just kind of was everywhere for the team. The facility was new. There was a lot of new things planned in the next upcoming few years to really help kind of take the facilities and everything to the next level. Kind of fast forward to getting recruited different places, whatnot, and actually visited Michigan State. You mentioned you're up in East Lansing. Visited Michigan State, and I think the snow was like 12 feet deep. So that was a challenge. But on that particular trip, my trip roommate, if that's what you want to call it, was Bob Kovac. And Bob also decided to go to WVU, and we ended up being center guard mates for our whole time together. So there's a little irony in that. But I had a couple other trips that were planned, and then I made my official trip to WVU. And driving back, I was with my parents. Driving back, I'm like, this is it. This is the place that I'm going to go. It's where I want to be. It's for all of the reasons. I had a couple of trips left, and I canceled them, or I was canceling them. And my high school football coach called me up on, it was I'll never forget it. Called me up on Thursday. I was supposed to go to a trip to Notre Dame, and he called me up and said, I hear you might be canceling the trip. I said, Coach, WVU is where I got to go. It's in my blood now. I can feel it. I know it. Mm-hmm. And he says, I get that. I respect that. He said, but I can't let you not go. I cannot let you ever say coulda, woulda, or shoulda. And I'm like, okay. And if my high school coach, like if he told you to do something, you were doing it. But I mean, it's advice that I still give to this day, in that coulda, woulda, shoulda. You got to do everything you can to keep that out of your day-to-day language, because you can't live with regrets. So if I could have done it, I should have done it, or I would have done it. Well, don't let yourself get backed into that. And I've lived that advice since then. I went to the Notre Dame trip. It was Notre Dame. It was a great campus. But it also probably emboldened my belief that WVU was the place for me to be. And, fast forward, it was, I wouldn't change anything that happened during my college career. My academics, everything was just absolutely incredible. The irony, I guess you want to spin that fast forward, was that we ended up playing Notre Dame in the national championship.
I mentioned early on about the offensive line and the fact that, and I may be wrong in this, but I'm thinking all five of you were fifth-year seniors in that game, and that's probably we're not ever will see that again, the way things are today. What do you think as far as the game itself is? I know the game has changed, but how has that impacted the game? You think, not only with linemen, but all players. Everybody transferring everywhere. Instead of having you there 4 or 5 years to develop you and make you bigger, stronger, and faster, and smarter, and just better. What do you see as the negatives to the way it is today? I think we all have our opinions about that, but
sure,
I'd like to hear from somebody that's been in the trenches.
Well, I could have stayed there 10 more years, and I don't know that it would have made me any smarter. But that was kind of I hit the top of the rung on that.
Peaked out early, huh?
Yeah. Well, the teams of the 80s and the 90s and even into the 2000s, they were teams that were built around, and not every single team, but there was a commitment, right? There was, I signed a dotted line. There was the friends that became kind of your family. That in sports, friends and family become wildly different than a college roommate or a buddy that you met somewhere along the line, and they become your great friend. And it's not dismissing any of that sort of friendship, but it's just very, very different. And with that sort of friendship, family feeling, that it becomes a deeper investment into yourself, into your teammates, and into the university. And that's what you saw when we were together. The 5 offensive line and the starters and the others. There was about 10 of us who went to Westover Pizza on buffet night. They at first they thought that was the worst strategic move they could ever do, but then also realized that became this tradition. It became part of our storyline that was talked about in the paper, and more people went to Westover Pizza. Fast forward to right now, there isn't that commitment. Particularly in the offensive line, and for the skilled positions, the wide receivers, the running backs, the quarterbacks, their talent, skills, and abilities, and you got to mesh up for sure, but their talent, skills, and abilities are different because to some degree they're operating independently. The wide receiver who's out on the sidelines, he's running an X, or he's running a go, or he's running a Y, and it's just him and that D-back or the safety that's covering him. Up front, it's the guard, the center, and the tackle have to be absolutely synced up, and you just don't pick that up, at the click of your finger. You absolutely become very in tune with what everybody's doing, how they're doing it, what they sometimes remember and sometimes don't remember, and we all became coaches for ourselves. You break the huddle, and we're coming up to the line, and we're talking to each other. We're making the calls. We're talking about what we need to do. And in some cases, we're not talking at all because we know exactly that's going to happen. And even the greatest center, guard, or tackle in college now or in any level has to be able to establish that continuity with their teammates. Now, the first person that's probably going to argue and say, well, then why do some teams win who have a bunch of people who transfer? Well, because it's a lot more than just that. But when you want to think about the syncing up of positions and the relationships that you create along the way, it's way deeper than sign the next person, and bring the next person in.
I'm going to go out on a limb here. Do you know Zach Frazier?
So I've met him a couple times. He probably will not know who I am.
I bet he will.
but I'm a massive fan of his, not only throughout his whole entire college career, and I outside of maybe people in his family, I probably one of those people that, the handful of people who knew what he was doing on every play, because that's what you kind of gravitate to that position.
Right.
And I thought Zach was an incredible player. His smarts, his intuition, his physical abilities were just incredible. When he got drafted here, I say here, I'm in Pittsburgh, but when he got drafted for the Steelers, it was so exciting. And we were actually at a Kenny Chesney concert, and there's, I don't know, 60,000 people there, and we're walking along. I'm like, hey, that's Zach. And like, who? My wife's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, that's Zach Frazier. She's like, what are you talking about? How do you even know that? I'm like, because I recognize him. And the only guy on the planet that recognizes the center in the crowd of 60,000 people. And I went over and I introduced myself. I talked to him for maybe 35 seconds. But I walked away and I'm like, that was very, very cool for me.
Absolutely. Yeah, I kind of expected there might have been some connection there. Frankie mentioned peaking out in the academic area and the intellect in college. I think I peaked out about 6th, 7th grade. I don't remember exactly when it was, but I feel like it was somewhere in that time frame. Go ahead, Frank.
Well, the thing about everything you're talking about, one of the things I wanted to bring up, maybe it's a little bit premature to talk about your life after WVU, but one of the things I did is both Greg and I do homework for the show, was to read comments that your colleagues at FedEx have said about you. And Greg and I always talk about the fact that so many of the Mountaineers not only were exceptional on the football field, but have lived extraordinary lives and made contributions, significant contributions after football. And the storylines that come up with you is just a great guy to work with, great guy to lead projects, is humble, gets the job done. You want him to give an after dinner speech, he can do that. But the one thing that I remember more than anything else is no matter how hard he works, and he works very hard, he knows how to have fun. He just knows how to enjoy himself and to have fun. Great family man. But, if there's a theme to this show in terms of now and then and now rather, it is this group of Mountaineers we've gotten to know better through this show. And this is the 76th show. That theme of success after college, contributions after college, not only in the workplace, but also in civic life and family life. And there's got to be something in the water in Morgantown. Certainly it's the people, but your thoughts about your career and life after Morgantown, and if what I said makes any sense to you.
Yeah, it makes incredible sense. Well, I think there's actually there's a Morgantown sort of connection, but I also would say that particularly and I'll say the 80s and into the 90s, so the early years of the Nealon era, and all of us were not the greatest players. There certainly were some players that were really, really good that were on our team, but we weren't the number one whatever position in the U.S. or whatnot. And we kind of had that grinder attitude, and I would say that a lot of that goes to our families, our parents, our brothers and sisters, in the communities that we grew up in. Particularly, and I'll speak very specifically for the Western PA and Northeastern Ohio type folks. You were brought up differently about hard work, about commitment. And when you translate to the gridiron, and it translates to the academics, and then it translates to when you have the opportunity to get a job or a career after work. And it doesn't matter, in my mind, it doesn't matter what your title is. It matters what you do and how you show up for that job. And I was very, very blessed to be hired early on at Roadway Package System, which was the original company that I worked for, and FedEx acquired us in the late 90s. But I was very, very fortunate to get into a company that thrived on that grinder mentality, that grinder hard work, that staying focused, and also, had a chance to get away. And for the first 8 years of my career, that's what it was. Kind of married to that career and had a lot of fun with a lot of friends, but also very focused on the career. Had the opportunity, met my wife, and it's been an incredible 28-year run with her and my 3 children. I call them children. They'll always be my children, but they're my young adult children. And being able to translate that mentality, that hard work, that focus, that commitment becomes very, very easy to the people you love. And being able to stay focused on a career with my wife, who did an incredible job of taking care of our family. And, I give her credit all the time for raising our kids. And when they turned out great, it's more to her credit than it is to mine. That's absolutely for sure. But I always wanted to be there and support her all that I can, and as much as I can along the way also. And my kids have all done an incredible job, and that kind of grinder work ethic translated to all of them in all the things that they do. And my wife has a very competitive spirit also in athletics, and she played sport too. So I think that transcended to our children, and they were and still are very, very competitive in all that they do. But I think it's a combination of in the 80s and 90s, it was that sort of that tweener, right? The tweener players, the tweener athletes that kind of came in with a chip on our shoulders, and we had to prove something. So it made us work harder. It sometimes made us work smarter. But also kept us going forward in the athletic space, in the academic space, and then, again, very, very fortunate in the post WVU life, and in all the places that we've got great jobs and had great careers and all that along the way.
Another thing a lot of people that watch our show like to hear is former players' reflections on Coach Nealon and what it was like to play for him, and your thoughts on him. I know there is definitely a trend line on that as well, but we'd like to hear from everybody what their thoughts are about Coach Nealon.
Love them. Well, still love him. Coach Nealon and what he did for me in giving me the opportunity to be a part of WVU football. To be a part of WVU or West Virginia University. I give him all the credit, and I've said it to him many, many times and thanked him for everything that he's done. As a matter of fact, him and I talked just a couple of months ago. I sent him a text. Actually, I was double checking whether I had the right phone number. He didn't answer for like 2 days. I'm like, I guess I don't have the right phone number. And actually Saturday morning around 10 o'clock, he called me and we talked for probably 30 minutes. And we talked about our team. We talked about athletics. We talked about everything that's going on. And that connection was just absolutely there. And he remembers everything. He asked me about my parents. And he was just, it is such an incredible human being. That was great when it came to motivating and leading teams, but then also when connecting to you as a player and to your family was so very, very important. And I know it was very, very important to my mom and dad when they met him and how he was able to connect with them along the way.
I'm watching on the TV. I have a highlight film of the '88 season. I had turned it on earlier, just now turned it back on, and who pops up on the screen? Kevin Koken. Man, what a head of hair you had. Nice. That hair looked good. And a baby face. My goodness. What a baby face. It's funny you mentioned about Coach Nealon. I know, and Frank remembers this. Our friend Mike Dunlap. I was working in Morgantown at the time and had a little fundraiser going on, and part of the fundraiser was we were going to have WVU memorabilia auction off. And he said, well, give Coach Nealon a call. And, he'll sign something for you or whatever. And I said, Mike, are you sure? I said, yeah, I was not sure I feel right just calling up Coach Nealon. He said, oh, no, he's already told me he's going to call. I was like, okay. I called like 3 days in a row. He never answered the phone. So I called Mike back. I'm like, you sure you told him who I was going to call? Oh, yeah. He'll answer, So I called him again. He finally did answer. And he's like, oh, yeah, Mike told me you was going to call. I was like, okay. And basically he just said, you don't have to tell me anymore. I told him what we were doing. He said, whatever you need me to do, just let me know, and I'll be happy to do it. He said, if you want me to come, if you want me to sign stuff, whatever, I'll be happy to. We were doing a thing for veterans, and that's all I had to say. And he was like, yes, I'll do anything you need me to do.
That's awesome. Last year when they had the tribute to Coach Nealon, I think it was like in February or March, and former players were invited back, and it was a really cool event to see all the players that could travel in to be able to talk to Coach Nealon and kind of pay tribute to Coach Nealon. And I had the opportunity there to also sit down and talk to him, and again, the things that he remembered, and during his little speech, he said a couple of things about me specifically, and you think all the marks that he left on me, and certainly many players, but I'd also like to think that maybe I left a positive mark on Coach Nealon for the players and what he wanted, and what he wanted WVU football to be like. So, we'll always love Coach Nealon, and always have so much credit to him for where I am now.
That's awesome. Frank, you get an opportunity, you need to go watch this highlight video. That center is just devouring people up there. It's awesome to watch. Man, sure do miss that.
Yeah.
I'd like to go back.
Yeah. Well, maybe going back to the future this year with Rich Rod. It sounds like the same grit that we've needed. And so, but Kevin, I've got a guy here. It's on my desk right next to my computer, if you can see that. And I know you were very close to the Wolfman. In fact, you and I met on his show. And I'm not kidding you. I have it right in my right on my desk, right in front of me every day. Your thoughts about Dale Wolfley?
But I didn't know you were going to throw me this curveball. Dale was a great friend of mine, a great teammate. And that really, when I talk about you become a friend, but then you become part of your family. Dale was probably the epitome of that, because he probably had 500 brothers for the 5 years that he was there. And if you take 100 players on every year, that's what he created, and that was how Dale came to life, and shared everything: his emotions, his joy, his pain, his excitement was constantly shared with every one of us, and that what made him so endearing. The way he worked hard, the way he was not afraid to try anything, whether it was football or go being a wrestler. Dale did it all, and the day he passed, when I got that phone call, I was stopped dead in my tracks for probably 5 minutes and could not believe it. And then you learn a little bit more about what happened and where and how. It was so horrible, and I miss him dearly as a great friend.
Thank you.
Yeah, Frank and I got to know Dale pretty well the last few years doing shows, and he was on my show, and I'd always laugh, tell Frank whenever I had him on. I had a different show. Whenever I had Dale on, all I had to do was introduce him, and then I just sat back and he took over and did the whole show. Never had to ask him a question. He answered everything and talked the whole time. He was awesome, and he was really helpful to us, and we talked pretty regularly, just about every week, and he'll be missed. He was special, and such an energetic guy. That's one thing we always noticed, was he always had the energy no matter what we were doing. He was full blast, no doubt. So, what do you think? Go ahead, Frank.
I was going to say, if there's ever a write-up in Wikipedia or elsewhere about the concept of true mountaineer, all they need to do is to throw a photo of Dale next to that description, because he really was a true mountaineer and will always be a true mountaineer. And we're all blessed, irrespective of how and where and how long we knew him. He's still having an influence on us. And for that, he's blessed us and will continue to.
Absolutely.
You, Frank mentioned earlier, Coach Rodriguez coming back. I know you still followed OVU pretty closely. What's your thoughts on that, and what's your thoughts on the season? I know we've had a hard time wrapping our heads around it because of all the portal stuff, but we're hopeful.
Yeah. So my freshman year, actually, Rich was my roommate during camp. So there was always maybe a next level sort of connection. Maybe it was only because of me being a freshman rooming with this, fifth year senior. But we actually stayed pretty connected throughout his career at WVU. And then there was a falling out, right? I think I lost his number, but it was a decision, right? It was a business decision. I hated it. I hated everything about it. But I wasn't Coach Rodriguez, and it wasn't my place to say he was right or wrong. Just I could say that it hurt me as a fan. That said, you fast forward to I guess it was January or February when he was named the new coach, and I'm super excited. The coaches caravan that travels around, they were here in Pittsburgh a couple weeks back, and my wife, my son, and I trekked down and hung out for the evening. Got a chance to catch up with Tony Caridi, and then Coach Rodriguez, and I probably chatted for 20, 25 minutes, just kind of in a small little group with Tony and I, which was really nice, really special. The fire and the intensity that he's bringing to the table, I think, is what's needed. That hard edge, and I don't know that we're getting the greatest players. You look at the portal, you look at the transfers. We've got 82 kids coming in, which is going to be a challenge, but they might not be all the greatest players. And if any of them are listening right now, not a knock on you. What it is it's a knock on that Coach Rodriguez is going to get the people who want to be there, that are committed to be there, and they're going to help bring winning back to WVU. So I'm excited about it.
I think you speak for most of the fan base. I think most folks, winning will cause everyone to easily forgive and forget. That's all. You just got to win. Just got to win, baby. That's all we got to do. Your ideas on, you've been in business for a number of years. You know how businesses operate and how they work. What's your ideas and your thoughts on where, this whole NCAA thing is heading with the NIL and the settlement and the transfer portal and all this? What do you think the future holds for college football?
Oh gosh, boy! I think if I knew that, I could become a consultant for the NCAA and make millions. Unfortunately, I think there are some folks. I say some folks, maybe some leaders, a part of some of the conferences, and even in the NCAA, that aren't looking at this, or I should say, they are solely looking at a business, but only looking at it as a business in a vacuum. And you can't take 300 college programs. I think there's 120 Division I programs, at least in football, and try to make a decision that's most important for 2 or 3 maybe conferences. Somehow we've got to be able to bring sanity back to the insanity of what the NCAA has become. Should players get some money? Absolutely. Should they get paid what they get paid now? No, I don't think so. That's my opinion. And not because I'm bitter, because I didn't get money when I played football for the love of the game, for, being able to compete and win every single week, every single practice. And now we've given this world that if something gets hard, people can quit. If something gets challenging or they're not getting what they want, they'll call somebody else up and they'll give them something more. And I don't, kind of think that's bad. People want to make more, get better. But I think there's also something to the values of commitment, the dedication and commitment that it takes to win. And coming together is, as a team, as a university, as a conference, as the NCAA, it's become an insurmountable mountain that nobody can climb or nobody wants to climb without their own self-interests. So how do you make it equitable? How do you make it fair? And how do you make it balanced so that everyone has the same opportunity? And, let the kids, the young men, get out on the field and battle out who wins, in a fair and equitable manner. I think we can create a better playing field for all sports, and I'm really talking football, but for all sports, in that, it's nice for teams to win. I mean, I guess if WV was winning every single game, every single year in every single sport, maybe I wouldn't say that, but no, I would. I think it's still about the balance. And, we've created an environment where young men and women can just go quit and do something else, and go quit and do something else, and go quit and go something else, go somewhere else. And that's not life. Like it or not, that's not life. And staying dedicated and committed and focused on your goals and achieving them, and then creating a better balance for everywhere else is where we've got to go. Again, I think we're too far gone for that. But it's destroying the game, and it's almost becoming worse than that of professional sports in some form or fashion, in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think we're all in agreement on that. Frank, yeah, anything before we close out tonight? I know running a little bit short of time here, so let you have the last one.
Well, as you were talking, I agree with you completely, Kevin. One of the things that strikes me is that this concept of trust is so important, and for a variety of reasons, Coach Brown lost that, and no matter what he could do, he couldn't climb that mountain, and that's flipped now with Coach Rodriguez. In fact, I can't remember a season where I've thought less about what's happening, post spring to get ready for the summer because of the circumstances with the portal and so on. But still, I and many others just trust he is doing the best he can. He's doing the right thing, and we're going to go into the fall without raising questions. On the flip side of that, the NCAA has lost trust, and so as a consequence, their situation is dire because I'm not sure there's anything they can do to be able to restore the trust that fans have. And I'll close with this and get your thoughts on it. Everybody talks about the pro model, and maybe college football, major college football should be more like the pro model. And Greg and I would agree with that to a certain extent. What you don't want to lose in moving to more of a pro model are the very special, if not unique, attributes of being in college, going to college, being in that environment, going to classes, thinking deeply about issues, interacting on a daily basis, not just for the season, but for the entire year. I just hope we can somehow have a both and the college piece of it doesn't get lost. Right now, if I had to bet, my bet would be it would be lost, and that would be tragic.
Yeah, I think you're spot on, and the pros are called professional for a reason, because they're professional. College student athletes are called college student athletes because that's what they're there for. just do the math, and it's for all sports, but just do the math when it comes to the NFL and some other leagues popping up here or there. You get a chance to go to Canada or whatnot. But if there's 32 teams in the league and there's 53-man rosters and 5 or 6 on the practice squad or whatever the number is now, every year how many players can potentially be drafted? 32 rounds times 7, and just do the math, and the less than 1%, less than 0.5% are going to be able to play college or in the NFL. So not having that degree, and I think we enable that, and the NCAA is enabling that people can go without the commitment. People can end up without the degree that is part of that package. That's part of the package, your pay package, books, board, all that is part of how you can become invested in the university, because the university is invested in you. And the argument, well, coaches leave and all that. Well, true, that's absolutely true. But they're also professional, and I don't justify that they can leave at the whim. But when you sign that dotted line, you're signing on with that university for a commitment. And the school's going to give you a great education. The school's going to give you a great opportunity to participate in athletics at the highest levels. Potentially maybe do more and build out your resume, whether it is to play sports professionally or whether it's actually go and work in the professional world, which most of us end up doing, which means we should take full advantage of that. And I don't think it gets recognized enough. I think it gets dismissed, and people should get this and people should get that. I think that my belief is that the university gives you a great gift. Every university gives you a great gift when you have an opportunity to play sports and have a scholarship to take care of all that. And the friends that you create, the relationships that you create, the wins and loses, that's the reality of it. Is that's life. You don't win every game you play. You don't win every friendship or relationship or job. You don't win all that, and it better prepares you for what's next outside of being 22, 23 years old. And that's the bigger thing that we've got to kind of think about. In my opinion, that's the bigger thing that we've got to think about differently for the young people around the globe, but certainly in the North America attending all of our universities.
Very well put. Very well put. Yep. Kevin, we appreciate you more than taking some time to join us. A lot of fun, very interesting topics, and great insight on all of them. We can't thank you enough.
Well, I appreciate you very much and having me on the show. We've been moving for the last few days, and this was maybe a good break. I needed I needed a little bit of a break, and I'm sure my wife and kids might be on a little bit of a break right now too. But well deserved by everyone.
Well, we do again. We do appreciate it. Again, great insight, great discussions. We enjoyed it thoroughly. I'm sure our viewers enjoyed it as well. We look forward to having you back on in the future.
Thank you very much. You guys have a great evening.
All right. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye. Kevin Koken. And Frank, I'm telling you again, you go watch that highlight video. I couldn't take my eyes off of it. He just, man, what a center. And, again, we talk about this all the time. It's always, what sticks with us and resonates with us is the success that these folks and the contributions they've made after their time at WVU. It's so impressive. And he's right up there amongst the best of them.
I can't think of a better advertisement for WVU than for these guys. They're thoughtful, articulate. They've been successful. And as he was talking, I was thinking about, I had a conversation recently with Dale Blaney, who was on the Mountaineer basketball team at the same time. And, this hard edge, basically, very few schools were interested in him. I think WVU may have been the only D1 school that was after him, but he came to WVU and really distinguished himself, a real sharpshooter. And then after he graduated, he goes on to the racing career, followed his dad's footsteps, and now
Yep.
he's in a racing car Hall of Fame, and
Yeah.
he's helped.
Yep.
It's just, and you just one after another, and it's just so rewarding for us to have an opportunity to get to know these folks and to talk with them and to really showcase them, and what a blessing.
Yep, and I know I'm a little older than they are, but back when I was going to those games, not that much older, and just idolized these guys, and now to get a chance to talk to them and hear their stories and see where they're at now is just fascinating, and it's like you said, been such a blessing for us to get to do this and to get to talk to these folks, and never disappoints, always great. And as a good segue there, I'm sure we won't be disappointed next week as well.
No.
If you want to go ahead and talk about next week's guest.
Well, he's coming back, goes by LaShawn and also Sean Pryor. And on the graphic that Darren has put up, there's the URL for his program, and it's everything's archived. So when you go to that website, you can listen. And he is extremely entertaining. Has a sidekick that's pictured there in the graphic. They go back and forth. They're wonderful. And having conversations, as I mentioned at the beginning of our show tonight, he is very clued into what's happening in major college sports. Big 12, because he's living in Oklahoma and Oklahoma City, and now with OU and Texas leaving for the SEC. He's going to talk a lot about, and he's been focusing on the OU program, the Oklahoma program. And in many ways, he thinks that program may be the sort of the proverbial canary in the mine shaft. Things are a little bit questionable, not in terms of what's happening on the field, but on the business side of OU. And it really comes down to making ends meet. And you'd say, how could that be happening in a program like Oklahoma? That's a blue blood when it comes to football, but it is, and they're laying off staff. And so he talks about this all the time on his show, and people can go and listen to him. And we've had him on before, very knowledgeable, very articulate, and we'll look forward to having him with us next Wednesday.
Yep, it'll be a lot of fun, and I'm sure again very enlightening, and I'm sure we'll learn a lot. So everybody will want to tune in for that. And lastly, but not leastly, we have our weekly promo we do for the Voice of College Football. Let Darren get that queued up and get it ready. And in the meantime, thank everybody for tuning in tonight. I know if they did tune in, they got to see a great interview with a great guest. Not so much the interview questions, but the answers from a great guest. And I know they'll enjoy that. So I hope everybody, if you do tune in, let somebody else know, and that they may go on and enjoy this, because it was a good one. And look forward again to bringing you another show next week. Frank, any final thoughts before we go?
Let's go.
Let's go Mountaineers. Get the baseball team rolling Friday. And we'll be back with you on Wednesday night here on the Mountaineer Locker Room Then and Now on the New River Network and the Voice of College Football. Appreciate everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you next week, folks. Good night.
Hi, everyone. Frank Fear here from Mountaineer Locker Room Then and Now, and we're pleased to be part of the Voice of College Football National Network. Mark Rogers and staff have done a great job with the network, and it's constantly adapting and expanding to bring content to you. Many of you are already following us on X and Facebook and Instagram, and if you're not, here are the URLs, the links to go to and take advantage of all the great content that's there for you. Even if you do that, you may not know some of the new doings at the Voice of College Football Network. One is a new podcast options that already thousands of people are taking advantage of. You can get it on Apple, Spotify, and other podcast networks, and we encourage you to do that. Perhaps the biggest drum roll is the new Voice of College Football website with plenty of content, everything that you want to enjoy and can enjoy about college football. And remember, one thing that makes the Voice of College Football network different is that we're 24/7, 12 months a year. It never ends. It's college football in the winter, the spring, the summer, and of course during the fall. We also want to announce, and Mark Rogers again and staff have done a great job with this, a relationship with Amazon.com. And here's Mark to tell you more about it.
You can make a difference here at the Voice of College Football. Use the Amazon link. Financially contribute to the Voice of College Football without spending a penny. Same shopping experience. It's easy. Go to any video on any channel. Go to the description section and grab the link right next to the capital letters that say Amazon. Use that link, and Amazon will instantaneously convert to your account, settings, history, everything intact, just like whatever link you use right now. No difference. Pay no attention to the product that you see right there. Just go search what you want. Don't forget the Amazon link. Thank you for your support. Sincerely, the Voice of College Football.
Well, that's it for now. Let me thank you for your loyalty. Voice of College Football Network. This is Frank Fear for Mountaineer Locker Room Then and Now. Hope to see you on our channel and other channels, VOCF. Take care, everybody.